Marty was the only mother the little Grizzly ever knew. He nursed her from the time she was a newborn cub. He devoted several years of his life to a crazy dream, to teach the little bear the ways of the wild, and then give her freedom in a mountain wilderness where grizzlies once thrived. Was it really possible? Would her love for her human mother make her an easy prey for hunters? Could she find a mate in mountains where no grizzly had been seen for many generations? Could a zoo-born bear survive in this harsh world? This is the story of Grizz, a remarkable grizzly, and of Marty, a young nature writer who was the man who loved bears. In winter, these mountains are nature's harshest test of life. All living things exist in a state of jeopardy. Life is on the simplest of terms. To understand it here is to understand it everywhere. Despite the hardships, though, the wilderness is never devoid of life. Men have spent entire lifetimes in the wilderness trying to discover all that goes on, trying to understand mysteries, like the behavior of bighorn rams in mating season. The struggle is for food, for a chance to eat, and keep from being eaten. Relationships between species are complicated but important. Yet they are still largely a mystery to naturalists, and many species will be destroyed before we can completely comprehend. Ideas like this are what brought Marty Stouffer into these remote mountains of Colorado. He planned to spend a year making first-hand observations. As a nature writer, he wanted to live among the things he would write about. But then a chance meeting changed his plans. More than that, it changed his entire life. The story began with tracks in the snow.
It's easier to follow animals in winter, which is one reason I'm always looking for new tracks. But these, well, I just wasn't ready for them. They looked like they might be the tracks of a grizzly bear. In fact, I felt sure they were, only there were not any grizzlies in Colorado. Not a single one. I couldn't figure what it was, but it absolutely could not be a grizzly. Whatever it was big. The tracks were very fresh. There were coyote tracks too, which confused things even more. There wasn't a sound. I began to get spooked a little. I heard something and stopped to listen. Sure enough, the crunch of snow. I turned to have a look. A grizzly! I ran like crazy. I'd read about grizzlies thirsting for human blood, but he wasn't even chasing me. Later, when I knew grizzlies better, I realized he was just warning me that this was his territory. How could there be a grizzly here that nobody knew about? Did he wander in from up north? Or had he been hiding out for years? Somewhere out there was a wild grizzly, the last one in the whole state of Colorado. I was so excited I couldn't sleep at all, so I got out my books. Suddenly, I wanted to know the whole story of grizzlies, why there weren't supposed to be any left. What I read was pretty sad. In the last century, there were millions of grizzlies in the Rockies. Then came mountain men and trappers and cowboys and hunters, and they just killed them all. Every last one in the state, except the one I saw. I stayed up all night thinking. By morning, I'd come up with a plan. Might be crazy, but I was determined to try it. First, though, there was something I had to do.
It had to be important for Marty to make this trip. It was 18 miles from his cabin to the paved road, and that was only the beginning. Marty went straight to the zoo, and as you probably guessed, to the grizzly bears. There was no longer any doubt. The beast he'd seen was a grizzly. It made Marty sad to see these largest of all carnivores reduced to begging for peanuts. Marty had one more thing to do while he was here.
Oh, can you come around to the side door?
That's a grizzly?
Sure is. She's 6 weeks old already. You want to hold her?
Well, I don't know much about holding babies. Hello there, baby.
The trip back was quick. Marty doesn't like to hang around in cities very long, but he accomplished his mission. He proved to himself that the beast he'd seen was a full-grown grizzly. Now, for the first part of his plan.
How about Shirley? No, you just don't look like a Shirley. Grizzly, Grizz. Grizz. You know, that's not bad. Grizz. Here, Grizz. You like that name, Grizz? Dinner time, Grizz.
And so it was that the newborn cub got the rather appropriate name of Grizz. Also, on that day, she got a very dedicated human mother. In the remaining weeks of winter, Marty was to care for her with as much devotion as a human can bestow on an infant. It was part of Marty's plan, impossible as it seemed. But there never was a plan that didn't seem better after a good night's sleep. Next morning, Marty was up and out early as usual. Little Grizz stayed in bed. Grizzlies are supposed to sleep all winter. In the wild, she'd be snuggled up to her 700-pound mother. But it was also nice and warm next to the big wood stove. At first, Marty couldn't concentrate on the wilderness world outside. He was thinking of the little cub back in the cabin. Was she all right, alone? Maybe he should go back. While these things were on his mind, he heard something. It was the old Grizzly again. He'd found the carcass of a winter-killed elk. Marty thought of the helpless creature back in his cabin. Would she ever grow into anything as powerful as this great beast? When grizzlies are born, they'll fit in the palm of your hand. They're almost completely helpless, just as are human babies. Unlike humans, they are very smart when they grow up. Nature seems to take a longer time in the development of her highest creatures. But later, they learn a lot more than lower animals. They seem to depend less on instinct. Marty knew he had a lot to learn, too. How could he, a human being, presume to teach the ways of the wild to a young grizzly? Could he teach it where to hunt and fish?
My plan was simple enough, or so I thought. I wanted to restore grizzly bears to the Colorado wilderness, just the way they restock streams with trout and forests with deer. Only my idea was not for people to hunt and kill them, but to let them alone. To me, a wilderness isn't natural without big predators like grizzlies. It's hollow, like a ghost town. When I discovered that old male grizzly, I was happy. I thought that my plan would be practical. I had found him a mate. Now, to let nature take its course. There'd soon be a new dynasty of grizzlies in Colorado. How about it, little girl? You grow up big and beautiful, because I've got a boyfriend for you. By the end of February, I took her outside for the first time. I had to. She was making a wreck of the cabin. Her curiosity got her into everything. first, she was a little confused by the snow, but she quickly learned to love it.
When spring came, Marty began to introduce Grizz to the wild world which surrounded them. Within the few months until autumn, Grizz would have to get to know intimately some 75 square miles of wilderness mountains and all the creatures native to it. Fortunately, Grizz was a student on the fast track. Marty began to feel somewhat intimidated. The other wilderness mothers were so adept, so unquestioningly sure of what they were doing. The young, too, seemed secure in their parents' care. Hawk babies were fed on the same food that nourished hawks for millions of years. A fawn knew to stay very still and invisible when its mother was not near. But what did Grizz know? What could he teach her? The 2 or 3 dozen facts which he'd read in books? Grizz was obviously very smart, but what good was intelligence if he didn't know what to teach her? Or worse yet, if he taught her something wrong? Marty suddenly realized that curiosity and intelligence were her best teachers. Grizz was a very curious bear.
Even though Grizz was still mostly on the bottle, I was trying to get her interested in other food. I had read that grizzlies eat roots, but what roots? I'd just dig some up and try them on her. Either I guessed wrong, or she wasn't ready for wild turnips. But she loved to dig. Just taste it, Grizz. How do you know you don't like it? Stop it, silly. Don't play with your food. It got warmer, so Grizz and I went up to Timberline, where there was still lots of snow. Don't be scared. Bear experts have told of seeing grizzlies watching beautiful sunsets. Grizz was definitely more interested in other things. She was totally dedicated to one thing, satisfying her curiosity. That was as it should be. The more territory she got to know, the better off she would be.
Marty began to see more clearly that Grizz would almost certainly be able to take care of herself in the wild. There was only one thing a grizzly need fear: man. He would have to teach the cub to fear all human beings. Otherwise, she would be caught or killed by trappers or hunters.
Quiet, Grizz. Shh. Run, run! Hide from bad people. Hide, Grizz, hide!
The season got warmer, so Marty and Grizz moved into a primitive lean-to at a higher altitude. Grizz was now able to go off exploring by herself. There were dangers, of course, and most of them Grizz solved herself. This time, Grizz wandered a long way from home, to the top of the ridge. What's that? A fresh hole? To Grizz, it smelled like something to eat. Grizz had never seen a badger, so she wasn't ready for such a temper tantrum. She was so frightened she was in the water before she realized she'd never tried to swim before. But it's easy for a grizzly.
Hey, Grizz. Come here. Come on. You smell something, Grizz? You scared? What is it? Grizz, nothing's wrong. Don't run. Come back here. Oh, well.
Grizz had smelled something that frightened her badly, and in a moment Marty would understand. It was a bear tree. Those were claw marks made by a grizzly. Their meaning to other bears was clear. It meant keep out, no trespassing. So that's why Grizz ran away. Marty had not paid attention to the bear tree warning, so the old monster delivered the message in person. Stay out seemed to be the general idea. But Marty did not stay out. He followed the old boy for a mile or so. Only this time, he was more careful. The grizzly was busy fishing. Marty watched, fascinated. It seemed safe, so Grizz came sneaking up to watch.
Hey, look, Grizz. Pay attention. You need to learn his tricks.
They watched for a long time, fascinated. It was the first grizzly the cub ever remembered seeing.
That's the next thing you need to learn, Grizz. How to fish. On the way back to camp, we spotted some mountain goats, high up on a cliff. We started to climb.
Mountain goats have survived the high altitudes because no one else can get at them. Even humans have trouble, and for a young grizzly, it may be impossible. Grizz is very sure-footed. All bears are. But this rock is loose. It just slides out from under her. Maybe the rock's more solid here, eh, Grizz? Marty climbed on up. The mountain goats wouldn't wait. He kept a watchful eye on Grizz down below. The goats have kicked some rock loose. Grizz hears it, but what can she do? From up above, Marty had seen that Grizz was making the right moves to avoid disaster. He felt pretty good, knowing that she was so alert and self-reliant.
Last week was the beginning of an impossible dream. Naturalist Marty Stouffer was living in a remote part of the Rocky Mountains, studying and tracking wildlife. One winter day, a chance meeting changed his plans and his entire life. To his surprise, he had discovered Colorado's last grizzly. From that moment on, Marty knew he had to reestablish the great bears on their former range, and he came up with a way to do it. He got his very own newborn cub, an orphan, to raise, and eventually to release into the wilderness as a mate for the big male. He named her Grizz. It was love at first sight. Marty was the only mother the little grizzly cub would ever know. Together, they lived in a log cabin and explored the rugged country around it. At first, Grizz was confused by the world outside. Soon she grew to feel right at home. Just like a human child, she was curious and playful. But her curiosity nearly got her into trouble. Marty had to teach her the ways of the wild, and more important, the ways of people, if she was going to survive alone. As the season grew warmer, the pair moved into a lean-to in the high country. Marty continued his studies, while Grizz began to venture out on her own. Marty's dream had seemed simple enough, but he had never counted on all the little things a grizzly bear needed to learn. Fortunately, Grizz was a willing student. And as the months passed, she was becoming very self-reliant. This week, join Marty and Grizz for the conclusion of their true story as she learns one last lesson, a sad but vital part of survival. See how the impossible dream just might come true for the man who loved bears.
One day, the little cub wandered into serious danger. A mountain lion. Grizz was completely unaware of danger. Grizz had turned into a spunky little bear.
After that fight, it seemed like Grizz got to thinking she might have escaped by climbing a tree. She didn't know that mountain lions are great climbers, and grizzlies are terrible. A grown grizzly can't climb at all, and their cubs can only climb trees with lots of limbs. Grizzly cubs are like human children. They love to explore creeks and streams. But I felt Grizz should start to get serious about it. There are fish in these waters, and she needed to know how to catch them. Trout often hide under rocks, and I tried to show the cub how to find them. I didn't think she understood. What's that, Grizz? A fish? Hey, now you've got the idea.
One of the best ways to get to know the geography of a wilderness area is to understand the creeks and streams. So Marty and Grizz explored them all. The wild creatures, waterways are highways, meeting places, and for some, they're homes. Beavers were once scarce in these mountains due to fur trapping, but now they are protected by law, and they are coming back. If Marty had any idea of making undisturbed observations, Grizz quickly changed his mind. He was not a passive onlooker. He had to be a participant in the game of life. Grizzlies are good swimmers, but they aren't in the same class with beavers. This one seemed to enjoy teasing poor Grizz, who started the whole thing. When the beaver had had enough, he just submerged and went into his house through an underwater entrance. It didn't take long for Grizz to figure out where the beaver went, but she never did find a way to get in. In the wilderness, where people seldom venture, many of the animals are less timid than those near civilization. The trick to getting close to them, Marty says, is to remain very still.
Quiet, Grizz. That's a hummingbird. It gets food out of the blossoms. Hey, stop! That's hummingbird food. You're supposed to look at it, not eat it.
Grown bears are supposed to enjoy the beauty of flowers, but cubs think of two things only: food and fun. During that summer, the cub survived many natural dangers. Now, she was to face the greatest danger yet: domestic sheep. Not that a sheep could ever harm a grizzly, but a sheep herder would. They have driven their flocks into the deepest recesses of wilderness, and then they kill the native animals for trespassing. It all began with a coyote innocently hunting ground squirrels. Coyotes live mainly on small rodents. He makes a catch. In many wilderness areas, the predatory animals, like coyotes and bears, have been systematically killed off. As a result, there's been a huge increase in the rodent population. Now they often do much damage. The coyote is afraid at first. Then the wild dog relaxes and they play, with a bit too much noise. Sheep herders all seem to hate coyotes, even though this one had never bothered the sheep. The coyote has not yet suspected danger. It was not the man who frightened Grizz. It was the galloping horse. To Marty, the sound of the shot was like a nightmare. It was a sound of terror which had haunted Marty's mind for months.
Grizz, are you all right? Don't run. It's me, it's Marty. Oh, Grizz, I thought you were shot. It isn't fair. His sheep don't have any more right to public lands than the wild animals do.
Marty was mad. Some guys think owning a sheep or cow gives them a right to kill anything within miles of their animals. At any moment, a shot could ring out, killing his dream.
Well, look at this. Must have been an old log cabin, once upon a time. Hey, a bear trap. Whoa, this is a monster. It could break a leg. I guess this used to be a trapper's cabin. Aren't you glad he's not around now?
It was a double-spring bear trap, one of the cruelest devices ever invented to torture wild animals. Marty took it as a souvenir of days long gone, he hoped. At the time, he had no particular plans for it, although it later played an important part in his story.
Oh, wow. It's all I can do to bend these springs. Come here, Grizz. Look at this trap. Come here. Never put your foot in one of these things. Watch. Hey, don't worry, Grizz. It'll never happen to you. Hey, how you doing? Oh, hey.
That fall, Marty spent more time than ever with Grizz. His happiness was tinged with sadness. Soon they would part as she went to a den to sleep the winter through. Autumn leaves turned to gold, signaling the most dangerous time of year for wild animals. It is hunting season. And in the wilderness, a hunter came to satisfy some primitive feelings that he can enhance his manhood through killing and death.
Right there. Let's dig.
Soon, it would be the denning season. Only Grizz did not have a den for a long winter sleep. So Marty, like a good grizzly mother, tried to show her how to dig one.
See, Grizz? You just dig. Come on. Use those big hooks of yours.
Grizz seemed to think they were hunting for something to eat. She seemed to get the idea all right, but she would much rather wrestle with Marty. Without knowing why, Grizz had been preparing herself for her long sleep. Her appetite was ravenous. She'd eaten almost anything that could remotely be considered food. Bees, gnats, snakes, and worms, fresh green grasses followed by juicy, sweet service berries. It all became fat, which would last her throughout the winter. During the winter, the normal grizzly does not really hibernate. Bears sleep a long time, but it is a light sleep, and they may come out of their dens several times. In hotter climates, They often do not den up at all in the winter months. As the first light snows began to powder the mountains, Grizz would check her den over and over again. And one day, she moved in for good, as if guided by an unseen hand. Normally, the winter would have been spent with her mother and perhaps a brother and sister. But Grizz had no mother except Marty, and he, well, he was not capable of 6 months' sleep without anything to eat.
Well, so long, girl. Have a good winter's sleep. See you next April.
Marty knew that she would be safe till spring, with 6 feet of snow piled on top of the den.
I spent a lot of time that winter with the bighorn. I wanted to study them while there were still some left. I also wanted to be near Grizz in case she woke up and needed me. It was mating season again for the bighorn, and I knew the big rams would be fighting over the females. They compete by butting heads. It wasn't easy to tell who had won, but they seemed to know. There were some pretty bad storms that year, and the bighorn were suffering. They were weakened by hunger. The government had permitted flocks of domestic sheep to graze up there, and they didn't leave much for the bighorn. When I finally left the bighorn country, I had to laugh at myself. Here I was, all roped up, and still worried about falling. And those critters would just walk out on the cliff as casual as you please.
It was April when Grizz finally came out of her den, yawning and blinking and very hungry.
I was afraid for Grizz, and I don't mind saying so. She trusted people too much. Her love for humans would cause her death. I knew I had to make her fear, even hate, humans, although it meant she would also hate me. The bear trap was the answer. I heated it in the fire and let it cool real slow. That destroys the strength in the springs. I didn't want to break her leg, which is what the trap could have done. I couldn't bring myself to hurt her. I knew that just the knowledge that she was caught, that she was not free, would impress her as even the gunshots had not. If she were caught in the trap, she would never trust any human, ever again. And that, I believed, would save her life. Here, Grizz. Come to me. Atta girl. Hey, Grizz. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come on. She was caught. I could hardly watch. Despite my precautions, she was in pain. She was scared. She was betrayed. And she knew it was because of me. When she pulled free, I could see that she was not seriously injured. I was thankful for that. Then she walked away. Grizz, come back! I didn't want to, Grizz. I'm sorry. Goodbye, Grizz. My feelings were totally mixed up. I wanted her to be free, but I wanted her back.
A year went by. Marty's work took him all over the Rocky Mountains and even up into Alaska. But the next spring, he was back at the cabin. You can bet that the thing topmost on his mind was Grizz. He had asked around at the ranches. Nobody seemed to have heard of any bears up here. His secret was safe anyway, but he had to know more. Was she all right? Did she stay in this area? He had to see her one last time. For many days he searched.
Grizz! Grizz! Grizz? Hey, Grizz. Grizz, it's me, Marty.
Grizz recognized Marty. There was no doubt about that. She seemed to want to go to him. Then she seemed to remember the trap. Marty understood. It was as he had planned. She was a wild bear now. It was a big male. The two together. Marty was filled with joy. His dream was becoming a reality. The next step was baby grizzlies. That was the last time Marty ever tried to see Grizz. He thinks she's still up there with her cubs. Will they survive? Of course they will, if man will let them. For man has the power to destroy everything. Perhaps man cannot change, but he can come to understand that in true wilderness is the key to our own life. He may know that to love wildlife is to love all life, including his own. He may comprehend that there is in each of us a little of the man who loved bears.
Until next time, enjoy our wild America.